What's up, everybody? The Andor series finale is tonight, and so I've got my final predictions before we go into these final 3 episodes of Tony Gilroy's show. I'm going to start things off here with Cassian himself, as obviously this one has to lead up to his first scene in Rogue One in that alley. But first, in that scene, he says, I got here as fast as I could. And so I think that's kind of what opens the door for Tony Gilroy to have some fun with Cassian here in the final 3 episodes. I think it's either A, the Yavin leadership holding him back again, like we've seen in Rogue One, and we kind of saw last week in the last week's arc. And then the other option is that he's running around for the rebellion, and we see him on Coruscant in the finale here. So maybe he's trying to escape Coruscant after something goes down, and maybe, we even get like a ship dogfight outside of the planet that he's on. I forget what it's called right here, but I assume there's going to be some fun action going into Cassian's final minutes in the show. Next up is my favorite character from Andor Season 2 and from Rogue One specifically, Director Krennic. This week, I feel like is our best chance at seeing the director working with Galen Erso again, which would mean the return of Mads Mikkelsen, which I would love. But, regardless if he returns or not, and even his daughter Jin, if she returns or not, either Urso, I don't think either will, to be quite honest, but I think if they were to return, this would be the arc to do it. I think we're going to see Krennic shifting his focus to Jedha and the Kyber to power the Death Star in this final arc. That brings us to another one of my favorites from the show, Luthen, and this one's pretty simple. In my opinion, he's dead on Coruscant. I saw someone speculate, he gets captured and taken to the Death Star and he dies there with Dedra after being captured, but nah, he would not let that happen. He's going out his way because he's already damned himself, but the how he goes out is the last thing he can control. Which, building right off of that, let's move on to Clea, his assistant, let's say, and this might be too much for Star Wars if I'm being honest. I don't know if they would do this, but we've seen them push the limits with Star Wars in this season, so I could see her potentially taking her own life after Luthen dies, and I'm convinced he's gonna die. That's not like a leak or a scoop. I don't know anything, but I'm pretty convinced it's my gut feeling. I know they have, their connections and their assets, but to me, they're essentially a two-man rebellion, and despite making fun of Andor for being a pussy and wanting out last week, I do think that if Luthen's gone, she's gonna want out permanently. But moving on, I want to talk about Willman, who I think is going to grab his girl and go join up with Saw on Jeddah. I think that's how Saw kind of just barely, and I mean just barely, knows Cassian in Rogue One. I think Willman kind of tells him about him, and he probably told him about him when they were smoking Rido, but whatever. I think the point is that Willman, I think, is going to be our connection to Saw here in the final arc. I don't think we'll see a ton of Saw Gerrera, unfortunately. I think we'll kind of just get the confirmation that he's gone off to Jeddah, and then we'll pick up with him again in Rogue One. Alright, I've got 2 more predictions for characters, and then I've got a prediction for what the final scene and credit scene of this final arc will be. The first character here is Dedra Meero, and I've got 2 options for her actually. A, she dies in Luthen's shop, or dies taking him down wherever that happens. I mean, we see her in Luthen's shop with the blaster, so I'm just kind of assuming that. But B, she could be stationed on Krennic's Star Destroyer and survive this show as his right hand after her success on Gorman. Then my final character prediction is another death, and that's for Lonnie the Spy. He's going to be discovered, I think, once they figure out that the ISB spy who was reporting to them on the Mon Mothma situation was reporting to Lonnie. I think, this is going to be kind of through Dedra, and we'll kind of kick off her going after Luthen, and she'll be pushing her old assistant, the other one that he's working on, or was working on, for the Dr. Ghost Academy. I think she's going to be pushing him for answers on what's been going on while she's been focused on Gorman. Finally, let's talk about how episode 12 is going to end. I think we're going to be following Cassian as he goes off to the opening scene of Rogue One after learning the name Urso. Melshi and K2, they'll be back on Yavin on standby because Urso is the make or break for the rebellion, and obviously in Rogue One, they go and break Jyn Urso out of prison to bring her back to Yavin. Then I do think there will be a credit scene for this finale, just like there was with the Death Star scene in Season 1, but I think this one's going to be rather emotional as Bix Kalene will return to Yavin 4 after Cassian has already left for Scarif. Not for that first mission in Rogue One, for Scarif, his final mission. And, obviously we're going to know that she's not going to see him again, he's not going to see her again, they'll never reunite. But in a sense, it could, work for people who haven't seen Rogue One, maybe, or even just it works in the sense that the audience knows, but the characters don't. And I think it would be a rather emotional scene to end this show on. And so that's going to do it for my Andor season 2 finale predictions. Let me know what you guys think is going to go down in these final 3 episodes down in the comments below, and make sure you have a great day.